Friends, it is said that dark secrets hide in plain sight. And Shawn Grate was living proof. He was a drifter with a chilling past, and he preyed on the vulnerable, leaving a trail of terror across Ohio. His reign of terror ended with one desperate 911 call. How did he go undetected for so long, and what finally brought him down? Let's dive into the twisted case of Shawn Michael Grate, right here on Cold-Blooded Serial. Shawn Michael Grate was born in Marion, Ohio on August 8, 1976, to Terry Grate and Teresa McFarland. He lived a normal life, playing softball and football in his backyard and socializing with neighborhood kids. His parents divorced 2 days before his 6th birthday on August 6, 1982. When he was 11 years old, his mom, Teresa, abandoned the family in Ohio to live with a new boyfriend in Kentucky. And of course, this infuriated him. Like, which kid wouldn't be upset, right? And what kind of mom abandons her child or children? Because he did have an older sister as well. So after that, Shawn was always adamant on rejecting all of his mother's boyfriends, which I'm guessing is because he felt as though she chose them over him, which, based on her just getting up one day to move to Kentucky and leave her children behind, you can't really fault him for thinking that. So, after she left, he chose to live with his dad, Terry, for the next 4 years, and then for some unknown reason, when he was 15, he decided to move in with his mom. So, while living with her, he had issues in the house and began to harbor fantasies of murdering her. So maybe he ought to go back to his dad, Terry, because what's going on there? Why you want to murder your mom suddenly? Shawn Grate's older sister, Barbara Charter, revealed that her mother had some serious issues. She said that at the age of 14, their mom was an alcoholic, but also a victim of serious abuse by her biological father, who was 7 years older than their mom. While she was still young, her parents divorced, and shortly after, Teresa, their mom, ended up marrying Terry Grate. Barbara said that their mom was emotionally distant and not connected to either of her children. Her marriage to Terry Grate was described as off and on again, and their mom would often disappear on Friday nights to party and not come back around until Sunday night. So, it's safe to say that Barbara and Shawn did not grow up in a traditional household. On June 28, 1994, just a couple months before Shawn's 18th birthday, custody of him would be transferred over to his dad, Terry, once again, this time for undisclosed reasons. A few months after living with his dad, the scary version of Shawn Grate really began to show for the first time. While he was still in high school, an 18-year-old Shawn Grate was arrested for grabbing his girlfriend's throat on November 24, 1994. A few years later, he's now a high school graduate. He was arrested for breaking into his pregnant 17-year-old girlfriend's home and choking her. 8 months later, he broke into her house again. This time, he hid underneath her sofa until the time was right to pounce. And when he attacked, he held the 17-year-old girl and her sister captive with a butcher knife. Though the two young ladies escaped physically unharmed, they told the police that he had warned them that if anyone comes to the door, there will not be anyone here to answer it. So you better hope that no one knocks at the door. Oh my God, friends, how scary is that? Because sometimes you don't know when someone's going to knock on your door. So it's like right now, they're both probably praying so hard that no one comes to their door. Why was he not arrested? This kid clearly is not playing with a full deck. All right, so friends, now you know the type of psycho that we're dealing with. Let's get into his crimes and talk about his victims that are no longer with us. We're going to fast forward a few years to May 2006. 23-year-old Dana Nicole Lowry went missing. Her family became worried when she stopped calling home to her significant other and to check on her 2 young daughters in Louisiana. Poor Dana stopped at the wrong house where she was stabbed and strangled, becoming Shawn Grate's first victim. Shawn told authorities that he killed her because Dana hadn't delivered the magazines to his mother, Teresa. After all, she is a saleswoman, and this is her job. She made a promise to my mom that she would deliver the magazines, and my mom still doesn't have the magazines. Now, honestly, friends, we don't even know if Shawn is lying. So, he could just be paranoid or schizophrenic. We don't know. To him, not keeping your word of selling these magazines was unacceptable, and therefore he felt that her life needed to end. That was his first murder. He doesn't murder again for another 10 years. So we're going to fast forward to almost a decade later when 31-year-old Rebecca Lacey was reported missing from Mansfield, Ohio on February 6, 2015. Just over a month later, on Monday, March 16, 2015, Rebecca Lacey became Shawn Grate's second victim when she was strangled to death for stealing $4 from him at a bar where he worked. Once again, he's telling the police that this is the reason he killed this second victim, because you stealing any amount from me is completely unacceptable. But we also don't know if he misplaced the $4. We don't know if Shawn is telling the truth. We don't know if Rebecca just was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Rebecca Lynn Lacey was born on March 24th, 1983 in Mansfield, Ohio. She enjoyed fishing, camping, and spending time with her children. In 2007, Rebecca's body was found in a wooded area by an employee at a gas station. His third victim was his 29-year-old ex-girlfriend, Candace Cunningham. After the breakup, Shawn became irritable and tortured her for about 3 days in June 2016 before dumping her corpse in an abandoned house that he set on fire to hide her body. When he spoke about killing his fourth victim, who was 29-year-old Elizabeth Griffith, he said, "I'm trying to justify it as compassion. The short time I talked to her, she cried several times just about life and how she couldn't find anyone to love her. She had a mental illness." Candace was beating herself up too. "They tried to put me on psych pills, but I didn't want anything controlling my brain." Yeah, I know, he kind of jumped all over the place, but basically he's saying that he killed Elizabeth Griffin because she was already thinking about killing herself. So he's doing her a favor. He's saying that both Elizabeth and Candace had mental illnesses. Although the doctors told him that he has a mental illness, he's like, no. He's like, listen, you're not going to try to control me, okay? I control my brain. I know what I'm doing. I'm not taking any pills. So Tina Swartz, who was a therapist at Appleseed Community Mental Health, counseled Elizabeth Griffith and said that Elizabeth did suffer from paranoid schizophrenia with some mania. Elizabeth would often hear voices or see things that weren't there. Tina Swartz also said that Elizabeth called Appleseed's helpline almost every other night, and her last call came in on August 15th. On September 7th, Tina Swartz and the caseworker went to Elizabeth Griffith's apartment. Once inside, there were no signs of her. But when Tina noticed that Elizabeth had not done her laundry, she knew something was wrong. Tina did some investigating and discovered that no one had seen Elizabeth Griffith in a couple of weeks. 29-year-old Elizabeth Griffith was a mother, and her and Shawn Grate were good friends. They often hung out together at the Ashland house, where he was a squatter. Evidently, Shawn had been playing Yahtzee with Elizabeth until they arrived at the House of Horrors, where he'd been residing. She confided in him and expressed her desire to die, to which Shawn snapped and strangled her as a means of shocking her into wanting to live again. He ultimately followed through, and on August 6, 2016, her naked, bound, sexually abused corpse was discovered in a closet. A month later, at 8:30 p.m. on September 8, 2016, 43-year-old Stacy Stanley Hicks got a flat tire. She pulled into an Ashland BP gas station where she was on the phone with her son and told him what happened. So the son hears a friendly man offering to change her tire, but Stacy turns him down because she said that a family friend, Wayne Bryant, was on his way to help her. Wayne did arrive. Wayne did change the tire, but loitering around them the whole time was Shawn Grate. He even helped Wayne in the process of changing the tire. And in exchange for his help, Stacy gave Shawn a ride to his house, which is really an abandoned house. They call it the Ashland house, or the House of Horrors. She has no idea where she's going. I don't even think that she realizes that he is a squatter. But she gives him a ride to the house where he's been squatting. And she has no idea that she is about to become victim number 5. Her son, Corey Stanley, shared that she told him she was getting coffee and going home. Corey Stanley says that he talked to his mother multiple times a day, but there was no contact on September 9th. And Corey said he tried to call his mother all day on September 10th. So what happened? When Stacy went inside of Shawn Grate's home, he sexually assaulted her, strangled her, and then dumped her body under some trash in the basement. The family went to Ashland on September 11th to look for Stacy. Police found her car on 9th Street, but there were no signs of Stacy. Police also found Stacy's ID in the car and her keychain at 363 Covert Court, which is the vacant house where Shawn Grate had been staying. Corey said that his mom was a recovering addict and had been clean that entire year. He said she looked the best he had ever seen her. 5 days later, on September 13th, 2016, his sixth and final victim, who we will call Jane Doe, made a harrowing call to 911. She told the dispatcher that Shawn had been holding her captive and sexually assaulting her for 3 days straight. 38-year-old Jane Doe met Shawn earlier that summer at a local community center and looked at him like an older brother. She said that they would share lunch and go on long walks, frequently discussing the Bible and playing tennis. She said that their relationship was completely platonic, although he always wanted more. He asked her out a few times, but she just had no interest. Like, her boyfriend was Jesus, okay? Like, she was not trying to date a human. She just wanted to get clean, get healthy, read her Bible, and pray. On September 11th, 2016, Shawn ended up persuading her to walk with him to the Ashland house, which is located at 363 Covert Court, to receive some clothes he had in his possession. Now, mind you, because they're friends, her guard is completely down. She doesn't think anything of it. Shawn has only shown her one side of him. You know who he reminds me of, right? The last case I just did with Henry Louis Wallace, Shawn reminds me of him. For Henry, all of the women that he killed, he knew personally. For Shawn, he's only killed a couple women, that he knew personally, and then also a couple that he didn't know so well. The way that they come across as being very nice and being very friendly, just to turn around and show you their true colors, which is probably the scariest thing that any of these victims have ever seen. So on September 11th, 2016, Jane Doe goes to the house where Shawn is squatting. She said she sat in his room reading the Bible, and, he was just being his normal friendly self. He excused himself, and she said when he returned from the kitchen, his demeanor was different. He snatched the Bible out of her hand, telling her that she was not going anywhere. They fought, but he overpowered her, beating and strangling her until she stopped fighting. Shawn Grate then proceeded to bind her in various weird positions, including one that would allegedly strangle her to death as she attempted to break free. During the 3-day assault, she had sustained extensive bruising and both head and sexual orifice traumas and was bleeding from her private area. She tells the authorities that she had been sexually assaulted by him in every way imaginable. Friends, he's sick, absolutely sick. So, the first night of her captivity, she said that Shawn barely slept, giving her no chance of escape. After another day of incessant torture and assaults, he eventually passed out. His phone was right next to him, going off, but he seemed to be in too deep of a sleep to even acknowledge the ringing phone next to him. Jane Doe saw this as her opportunity to escape, and on September 13th, 2016, she reached over her sleeping captor and silently and swiftly retrieved his phone and called 911, all while she was still partially bound. Jane Doe spoke as quietly as she could to avoid waking Shawn up. She whispers, "I've been abducted." And with the help of the police, she escaped the Ashland House of Horrors, where she was being held captive and where the bodies of Stacy Stanley and Elizabeth Griffin were found. This monster was finally apprehended. Friends, you remember his third victim and ex-girlfriend, Candace Cunningham? Well, when he led police to her body on the day of his arrest, September 13th, 2016, he decided to make small talk by describing what it was like when he carried her uphill and over the creek. And he said, after she died, she was a lot heavier. That's just a weird statement to say, So, Shawn Grate was indicted on 1 count of aggravated murder and 3 other charges in Marion County in connection to the death of Dina Laurie, the 23-year-old door-to-door magazine saleswoman from Minden, Louisiana. He was indicted on a total of 23 counts in connection to the murders of Stacy Stanley, Elizabeth Griffin, and Jane Doe. Ed Staley, a special agent with the Ohio Bureau of Criminal ID and Investigation, identified dozens of photos taken at 363 Covert Court on September 13th, 2016. He talked about the stuffed animals and clothing that were stacked in a pile, along with clothing that was hanging on the wall. He said, "It caused me to question what might be behind all that stuff on the wall." And him and the officers let their curiosity get the best of them and went to a closet door that had duct tape over the seams and a blanket across the bottom of the floor. When they opened the door, they found maggots covering the inside, along with a pile of clothing. Special Agent Ed Staley called the smell deplorable. Underneath the clothes was the decomposing body of Elizabeth Griffith. Her naked body was lying face down with the top of her head resting against the wood trim. Agents then went to the basement, where they encountered piles of trash and the odor of decomposition. Under the trash, agents first noticed a human hand with bracelets. They found the body of Stacy Stanley with binding around her neck. She was naked from the waist down. After his arrest, Shawn reportedly told police about 3 additional murders: the murders of Candace Cunningham, Rebecca Lacey, and an unidentified victim from Marion County. He is now on death row for the killings of 2 of the women in Ashland County. He's also serving 3 life sentences. Shawn Grate is scheduled to be executed on March 19th, 2025. And friends, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, your true crime bestie, Tika, on another episode of Cold Blooded Serial. I always appreciate you listening and diving into another wild story. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot if you would leave a rating or a review. And don't forget to hit that follow button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, trust your gut, and as always, stay safe. Bye.